In 2017, Peter Calthorpe established his 7 principles of building better cities. The purpose of these principles is to guide urban development in cities across the world, prioritizing the well-being of citizens. Right now, in 2024, in this video, I will be applying these principles to the city of Lake Jackson, Texas. With a population of around 28,000 and an elevation of 13 feet, Lake Jackson was originally established in the 1940s as a residential community for Dow chemical plant workers. To this day, Dow Chemical is a major employer for residents of the city, along with several other chemical manufacturing plants. As the birthplace of famous mega gas station chain Buc-ee's, Lake Jackson will be the perfect city to judge using Calthorpe's 7 principles of building better cities. Calthorpe's first principle is preserve. To build good cities, we need to preserve the environment for our own well-being along with the well-being of the natural world. When it comes to preservation in Lake Jackson, one of their biggest issues is industrial contamination in the Brazos River. The Freeport Dow Chemical Plant, which is the largest integrated chemical manufacturing site in the Western Hemisphere, plays a big role in the economy of Lake Jackson and the neighboring town of Freeport. But the plant has been known to dump toxic chemicals, including known human carcinogens and microplastics, into the Brazos River, which leads directly into the Gulf of Mexico. According to a 2022 report, the watershed receiving Dow Freeport's wastewater is the second most polluted watershed in the US. This can make the river unsafe to swim in, contaminate the water supply, and have a detrimental effect on the aquatic environment along the river and on the shore of the Gulf. Combating industrial contamination in the Brazos River will likely require the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to start cracking down on water pollution from Dow and other chemical manufacturing plants in the area. Calthorpe's second principle is to mix. This means a few things. It means a shift from single-family suburbs and big satellite malls to mixed-use neighborhoods, where businesses are integrated alongside housing. But mix also means mixed-income neighborhoods and less segregation by class, race, and age. As we can see from this zoning map, the vast majority of space in Lake Jackson is used for single-family residences, with a large shopping center off to the side. This means that if you want to get something from the store, you need to get in your car and drive there. It also means that if you live over here and you want to go out and have a few drinks, there is no option for you to get home safely without calling a Lyft. Ultimately, this sprawling design leaves people more isolated in their cars and homes, and one solution is mixed-use zoning. The benefits of mixed-use zoning include more walkability, more diverse housing options, preservation of land, and promoting a sense of community. Implementing mixed-use zoning in Lake Jackson would be as simple as updating the zoning code to allow for business and residential to exist in the same area. The decision of where and how exactly that shift is made will depend on many factors, such as transportation capacity, infrastructure, and private interest. Calthorpe's third principle for building better cities is all about walkability. We have dedicated far too much space and far too many resources to our automobiles, and we need to start planning our cities around the fact that walking is a much healthier transportation habit than driving. Frankly, Lake Jackson has the perfect climate and geography for walking. It doesn't rain much, and there aren't any big hills. Despite this, WalkScore.com has adorned Lake Jackson with a measly 24 out of 100 walk score. Lake Jackson is a car-dependent city by design. The blocks are long and windy, and as we discussed before, amenities are located far away from the residential areas. On top of updating the zoning code to reduce sprawl, another way to encourage walking in Lake Jackson would be investing more in walking infrastructure. This means painting crosswalks, widening sidewalks, planting trees for shade, and building street lamps for walking around at night. Many of the things we just talked about with walking can also be applied to Calthorpe's fourth principle, bikes. Cycling is an amazing form of transportation that is not being utilized nearly enough in cities across the United States. Lake Jackson is no exception, receiving a 36 out of 100 bike score on WalkScores.com. Despite being the perfect climate, Lake Jackson has almost no bike lanes. And even if you do manage to bike to the store, either on the sidewalk or precariously on the side of the road, it is pretty clear which mode of transportation is preferred by the size of the parking lot compared to the size of the bike racks. To encourage more biking in Lake Jackson, the city needs to consider making room in their transportation corridors for designated bike paths and require stores to have a certain amount of bicycle parking, the same way they require stores to have a certain amount of car spaces. Calthorpe's fifth principle for building better cities is simply connect. Connecting means bringing people together by using land effectively and making sure people are able to get around how they choose. Lake Jackson is a great example of how the traditional neighborhood design of cul-de-sacs and windy roads can lead to more auto-dependency and isolation. Let's zoom in on a single section of the map from before. If someone wanted to walk to their neighbor's house, the bus stop, or a local business just a few hundred yards away, they would have to take this windy route. This design choice causes people to depend more on cars and less on walking, biking, and public transit. A 2010 study from the University of British Columbia found that residents in areas with the most interconnected streets traveled 26% fewer vehicle miles than those in areas with many cul-de-sacs. But don't worry, Lake Jackson doesn't need to bulldoze everything and start from scratch to make their communities more connected. By creating shortcuts and cut-throughs, like the one seen on the screen here, Lake Jackson can turn their auto-dependent neighborhoods into more interconnected, walkable ones. Calthorpe's penultimate principle is all about investing more in mass transit. Buses, trains, streetcars, gondolas, you name it. Public transportation methods are all energy efficient and compact methods of getting people from point A to point B. Currently, Lake Jackson is serviced by the Gulf Coast Transit District and the Southern Brazoria County Transit System. There is no Amtrak station in Lake Jackson, but if a Lake Jacksonian wants to go see their friend in Houston, which is about a 50-minute drive away, all they have to do is hop on the Okay, well, maybe that doesn't work. On top of this, 0% of Lake Jacksonians currently use transit to get to work, compared to 85% who drive alone. As an American, it can be easy to attribute this all to the fact that Lake Jackson just isn't a large enough city to justify a full bus system. But that argument just doesn't add up when you look at places like Switzerland, which has a bus system that connects small towns and big cities across their entire country. With the well-established road networks in Lake Jackson, they are missing out by not implementing a regular bus service for commuters. And considering its proximity to Houston, it is crazy that there are no transit options between the two areas. Last but not least, Calthorpe's seventh principle of building better cities is focus. Making all of these changes we have been talking about requires a paradigm shift from thinking of freeways and boulevards as the main arteries of a city to prioritizing mass transit and walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods. In Lake Jackson and many other cities across the United States and the world, this will not be a simple transition, but we know that the best way to get people to drive less and diversify their transportation modes is to invest in those alternative forms of transportation. In order to refocus the urban landscape in Lake Jackson, we must continue to raise awareness about the important issues that urban sprawl poses to human well-being. On that note, let's talk about Sharon Stewart. Sharon Stewart was an environmental activist who moved to Lake Jackson in the early 70s and discovered the poor air and water quality due to the local chemical plants. She went on to make a career out of fighting these big companies and holding them accountable for the pollution they cause. People like Sharon Stewart have spent their lives working to make sure our cities are focused on what is important. Sharon Stewart passed away in July of 2024, and there is still plenty of work to be done. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.